so yeah, reached out to an outfitter and talked to him and decided to book and went on it, and it was, I mean, to sum it up, was the best hunt of my life. And I don't know if anything's ever going to top that. It was physically, mentally, everything was extremely hard, but super rewarding. And I mean, like I said, to this day, it's probably going to rank as the top hunt I've ever done so far, and but yeah.
Oh, you got her, dude. She's down. Let's go.
Dude, I just shot a deer of a lifetime.
Freaking smoked him.
One with nature, and if you're a believer, one with God.
Definitely gets your heart pumping. Boy, you are in trouble.
Fall Obsession Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to another Fall Obsession Podcast episode. Our Fall Obsession Podcast is driven by our friends over at Ridge Rock Hunt Company, and I will talk more about them probably throughout this episode and then at the end in the sponsor segment. But I am Sam with Fall Obsession. I'm your podcast host, and thank you guys for listening. I am on here with a gentleman that actually the fine folks at Ridge Rock set us up with, Mr. Lee Duet. Make sure I got that right.
Yep. That's right, Duet.
All right, I got you.
How's it going?
I'm good, man. How are you doing?
Good. Can't complain.
Yeah. All right. Well, man, we're gonna dive right in. I'm gonna turn it over to you and just allow you the chance to start us off by introducing yourself, telling us where you're from, and a little bit about just kind of you as a hunter.
Okay. Yeah, well, like I said, my name's Lee Duet. I'm originally from South Louisiana, which you'll probably hear a little bit of that in my accent. I lived there pretty much most of my life until, I guess, 6-7 years ago. Then I moved up to Mississippi, so that's where I live now. I'm a full-time waterfowl taxidermist. I've been doing taxidermy since I was 13 years old, and I'm almost 41 now, but just went full-time about the last 6-7 years, whatever it was, and basically kind of the best thing I've done. That way it just gives me a lot of time to, freedom and stuff to hunt. I can work around my hunting schedule, basically, because I'm solely, on my own, so I don't have employees, this and that, so pros and cons to that, but, pros are it allows me to shut my shop down and go for 10-12 days at a time if I want to, on a hunt.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. I mean, I grew up down on the coast. I mean, all I've done, growing up was saltwater fish and duck hunting, which got me into the taxidermy part of it. And then I didn't start big game hunting until probably, I guess I was 20 or 21-ish, a couple of years after high school. I had a buddy that invited me to go on a hunt and kind of got me into archery hunting. We didn't do any of that where I was from because we didn't really have deer down there. And so got me into the archery side of things and just really fell in love with it since. And I mean, other than family and my wife and kids and, one kid, I mean, archery's my life after that. I mean, it's just nothing else tops it to me, so everything I do is based around bow hunting of, something, somewhere.
That's awesome.
So that's pretty much it, Yeah.
Man, I'll dive into many things about, you and you as a hunter and stuff, but to kind of kick it off on the taxidermy note, I've always heard you mentioned just a little while ago how you're able to make your own schedule. You are your own boss. You can hunt whenever you want. Confirm or debunk a rumor for me, because I've met with plenty of taxidermists, plenty of people in the processing area, wild game processing and stuff, and some people have told me that they're so busy that they feel like they are always taking care of other people's stuff. They don't ever get to take care of their own stuff. But it sounds like you have kind of mastered that balance. So how's all that work with your own hunting schedule and keeping up with full-time taxidermy?
Well, with me I just do waterfowl only. I don't do any big games. So, which is crazy now because I don't duck hunt anymore, and all I do is waterfowl taxidermy, and all I do is big game hunting. I don't mount anything big game. So, I mean, I don't gravitate off of birds. So I've gotten to the point to where, I mean, I'm almost 30 years deep in doing bird taxidermy. So I've got to where like I've pretty much, efficiency wise, I've got to where it's just I don't have to stop and think about things, and so I've got very quick with it to where I can get a lot of work done in a little time. So there's I feel like I can get a week's worth of stuff done in 3 days. If I want to, if I need to, if I got a hunt coming up to where I want to take off 10 or 12 days, I can work 7 days a week and, to have the time to take off, so it just over years, of mastering the craft.
Yeah, I got you. So, like I mentioned at the beginning of our podcast, Derek Eves from Ridge Rock was the guy who sent me your number and told me that you would be a good contact to reach out and see if you'd be interested in recording with us. How did you get to know Derek and become a part of that Ridge Rock family?
Basically through social media, and Derek used to work for another company in the past, and I don't know, I guess I got to following them somehow, and I don't know, we just kind of, private message each other back and forth. I think at one point he had messaged me about maybe like a mountain goat hunt or something like that, because, he vets all these outfitters, and he was asking, I think he had a client that was wanting to maybe go on a goat hunt and saw that I had killed one and wanted to know, about my outfitter, and so he got in touch with me asking about it, and that's kind of how we came about to be, friends and talking and stuff like that. And then met him through, like the Mississippi Bow Association. He was real big into that, putting the banquet on, and but social media pretty much is how we came about. And actually my last antelope hunt I went on, I booked it through Derek.
Gotcha.
And three of us went, and we all three killed with our bows, and it was a great place. And so, yeah. So to answer your question, social media.
Gotcha, man. So Derek has told me a little bit about some of your hunting adventures and everything. Kind of, he not too much. He kind of alluded to it, and just left it for you to tell in the event that you and I were able to sit down like this. But starting with, because I know in our last podcast that we did with him, which was about 10 weeks ago, he specifically mentioned, calling you for that vet on that mountain goat hunt. So I want to talk to you a little bit about some of your hunting adventures and everything, and I think that's a great place to start. Tell me a little bit about that hunting experience and going on a mountain goat hunt like that.
Well, I don't know I'm sure most people have certain animals that's their dream type hunt, and for some reason a mountain goat's always been my dream hunt. I don't know why. They don't have big horns, it's just one of those things, but I've just always been intrigued by them, where they live, and I don't know, I just thought they were cool looking animal, and just always wanted to go on one. And this was from as long as I can remember, and even before I even started really big game hunting, I just always liked that animal. And I don't know, I got into archery and started hunting, local deer stuff just like everybody else, and then got into going out west and then starting to branch out, and then I started kind of seeing, man, maybe I can make this happen, this goat hunt, and so yeah, reached out to an outfitter and talked to him and decided to book and went on it, and it was, to sum it up, was the best hunt of my life, and I don't know if anything's ever going to top that. It was physically, mentally, everything was extremely hard, but super rewarding. And like I said, to this day, it's probably going to rank as the top hunt I've ever done so far, and but yeah, it was a tough one, just trained for pushing 2 years. I was running a 5K every day, wow. six days a week, 5 to 6 days a week, every day on my lunch break. That was before I was full-time taxidermy. I was a machinist when I still lived in Louisiana, and we would go run every day. I was running a 5K, just trying to get, cardio up, and because I've read so much about it, I knew it wasn't going to be an easy hunt, and as much as I was prepared for it, it still kicked my butt. It did. It's hard to train for that kind of hunt, as far as just the ruggedness in the mountains and elevation, stuff like that, especially living where I live at here. Yeah. It's flat, so, but yeah, that hunt was incredible. And I would, if I wasn't into chasing these other goals and stuff, I I would go back again. That's how much I love that hunt. But I mean, it's just, I kind of want to do different species and just move on from it. But yeah, I would highly recommend anybody thinking about going on that hunt to go for it.
Yeah.
It's not getting any cheaper and you're not getting any younger. So that's the big thing on those hunts like that, man. I mean, as far as just physical, it's the younger you can do them, the better.
Yeah.
The better you off. Yeah. I mean, you could do them at any age. It's just one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
It's just the kind of mentality you have to have. But I mean, yeah. But it was pretty incredible.
Where did you go?
And I ended up shooting a nice billy at like 12 yards. I shot mine, and I mean, it just was It worked out.
12 yards?
Yeah. Yep. Shot him at like 12 yards and just got above them. And those mountain goats up there, man. I mean, they don't have many predators that live above them because they live on the top. You know, so they don't look up that much. They constantly looking down, and if you can get above them, you could, you can get into archery range, and that's what we did, and slipped in, and like I said, shot them pretty much straight down at like 12 yards and watched them fall, and it was pretty neat. So
I imagine.
Just glad he didn't tumble down.
Yeah. Oh man, that would have been crazy. I imagine you have to be pretty much kind of right place, right time to be able to get above those creatures, because like you said, they live on top, so that had to be a unique circumstance, I would imagine.
Yeah, you do. And then what happened with us is we climbed up this real nice ridge spine and we was at the very peak, and it was so like jagged that we was on the top and we would walk the edge looking down in the cliffs below us where they had like little finger ridges of rock, like bands going out. And we would just kind of walk maybe 20, 30 yards and look down and just try to find a goat. And we came around the corner, and sure enough, we looked and we seen one, just a leg bedded down. It was just sticking out of the edge of a rock. And we just, we laid back down on the top of the ridge right there. And my guide's like, well, we just need to wait them out. It might take hours. And I mean, we wasn't there like, it's funny. It was just meant to be, we wasn't there like 2 minutes, and the goat stands up and starts feeding straight towards us, underneath us, but coming towards us, and just nibbling on the little bit of grass that's up there. And I had him at like 50 yards, but it's super windy, and I mean, even though it's different shooting a 50-yard target in your house. In your yard versus, in the wild like that with the wind and everything. So I just wasn't comfortable with the shot, and so I let back down. And I knew the goat wasn't spooked, and I figured I can get closer. So I backed off the spine of the ridge and got to where I wasn't skylined, and slipped around and popped up on him, man. And I mean, we met in the middle. He was feeding towards us, and I popped up on him. And I mean, I could have hit him with a rock. I mean, he was that pretty, he was close.
Holy cow.
So, like I said, it was just meant to be. It was just one of those hunts that work out in my favor. They don't always do, for sure.
Yeah. No, that's crazy. How many days were you out there?
It was I think maybe a 8-day hunt, and I killed them on the 3rd day. And then I killed them at around lunchtime, and it took us like six hours or so to pack them out, to debone them, cape them out, everything, and then pack them out to the tent. It took us probably the rest of the day. It was getting dark by the time we got back to the tent, and then so we just spent the night there, and then came off the mountain the next morning, and then got down to the actual lodge. They have a lodge on a lake. This was in British Columbia, and so they have a main lodge on a lake. So we got to the main lodge, and we still had like 5 more days. So we just, we caught salmon. I ended up shooting a black bear while I was there as well. We went spot and stalk bears, like in those cut blocks and stuff, they call them, just those clear cuts. So we rode around and just, spotted bears, and I ended up shooting a black bear as well on that same trip.
Wow.
So it was a pretty good deal.
Yeah. That's a huge trip. Did you know that it was also a bear hunt going into it, or was that
Yeah. Well, it was an add-on animal. I knew I had the possibility. I was going for a mountain goat, so I wasn't worried about a bear. But I knew I had the chance to kill one if time permitted. And so I had bought a bear license, and and so like I said, just so happened I had 4 or 5 days to kill, and we fished. And I love to fish, but I'm not. I'm from Louisiana, man. I've fished all my life. Like I'd rather bear hunt than fish. So once we got there, we caught a few salmon. I told the guys, man, I want to go chase bears around instead of fish. And so that's what we did. And I mean, I probably passed on 15, 20 bears before I shot the one I wanted, just because I wanted one with like the white V. You see the ones with the white patch on their chest. I just wanted one of those, and I passed quite a few bears bigger than the one I killed just because I wanted that white patch. And we finally found one that had a white patch and stalked it and killed it. And so, I mean, it was a trip of a lifetime.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Wow. How big was the bear?
The bear wasn't very big. We didn't weigh it or nothing, but if I had to guess, it was probably 200 pounds, 220 pounds or so. Like I said, it wasn't a very big bear, but at that point, man, like I said, it was just a bonus animal. I really didn't care that much. I was on cloud 9 with the goat, so but there's some big bears there, really big bears.
Yeah. So tell me again where specifically all this was and where you went.
This was in Smithers, British Columbia.
Gotcha. Okay.
Which is I'd have to look on the map, but I mean it's kind of coastal. We wasn't that far off the coast.
Gotcha.
So pretty country up there for sure.
Oh, absolutely. So you mentioned earlier that you'd do it again if you didn't have other stuff on the agenda and everything. What other kind of big hunting adventures? We'll start with have you gone on so far? What else have you had the privilege to do so far?
You've heard of the Super Slam, like all 29 animals?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the Super Slam, or then they have that's not attainable to a lot of people, because finances and everything, that's my end goal. But I mean, will I complete that? I have no clue. That's just one of those things. So that's my long-term goal. But I mean, they also came up with like what they call a Super 10. So they just break it down, like there's 5 deer species, there's 4 bears, there's 5 caribou, and so on, where to complete the 29, there's, so what they do is they break it down to where, like, with the Super 10, they categorize, they put it to where, like, you can have, like, you pick 1 deer, and then maybe 1 bear, 1 caribou, 1 elk, a moose, a mountain goat, a pronghorn, a mountain lion. You either pick a muskox or a bison, and then 1 sheep. I think that's the 10. If I might be missing one, I can't think. Or so you pick. That's what I'm trying to do is the Super 10, and I'm 9 out of 10 right now archery. And I got a dog sheep hunt that I leave. Actually, I leave for an archery dog sheep hunt a month from tomorrow.
Awesome.
I leave, and if successful, then that'll complete my Super 10. But that's not an easy one.
No.
From what I hear. So. Yeah, so I have that, and then my other goal was the deer slam, the 5 deer species, and I have 4 out of the 5 deer species. I need a Sitka blacktail, and I actually have that hunt booked as well for this November, but I'm going to push it back a year or two because I was supposed to sheep hunt last year, but with the COVID, as far as trying to get into Canada, it just messed up a lot of people's plans, so my sheep hunt got scheduled for this year, so I didn't want to try to do the sheep hunt and the Kodiak hunt in the same year within a couple months, especially having because I got a newborn baby. He's only like almost 7 months. So I didn't want to push it, so I'm pushing the Sitka blacktail back. But yeah, as far as the hunts that I've done, I mean, I've killed the deer, Coues deer, Colombian blacktail, whitetail, mule deer. I need the Sitka blacktail. I've killed Canada moose, mountain caribou, pronghorn, mountain lion, mountain goat. I killed a muskox in Greenland, elk, bear, black bear. What's the other ones? I think that's it. But anyway, I'm 9 out of 10. So yeah, my sheep. This hunt next month is a big deal.
Oh yeah.
So.
We might have to follow up with you after that hunt if successful. I imagine that's going to be a challenging one, an interesting story.
It will, man. And I mean, it's one of those things too that I've hunted mountain caribou in that same mountain range where I'm going to be dog sheep hunting, and there's a lot of sheep there. And if most people and nothing wrong with this at all. But a lot of guys go on a sheep hunt, you know, and they end up just picking up a gun and killing one, you know, and there's no doubt I can kill a Doll ram most likely if I would do that. But I mean, I'm bow only, so it's going to be bow or bust, you know, and it's going to hurt if it don't happen. But those things, that's part of bow hunting, you know, and I'm just going to have to go back. So we'll see. Hopefully it doesn't happen, but.
Well, man, you have a lot of stories there, and I imagine we could probably take all day to talk about all of them. But I too am I'm bow only, just like you. I only archery hunt, and I've been able to go to Montana a couple times on pronghorn hunt a couple years in a row. I was successful at one of them, but one of the hunts that's really kind of top of my bucket list, you know, like you talked about at the beginning, is a caribou hunt. So you piqued my interest when you mentioned that. So I wanted to ask you to tell us a little bit about that experience hunting caribou.
Caribou was again the mountain. There's 5 different species of the caribou. The one that I hunted was the mountain caribou, which is the one that live with the Doll sheep and stuff. They all migrate to a certain extent, but these don't. These are not the caribou that you see on TV, like thousands of them coming out the lake shaking off, you know, when they cross the lakes, and these big. That's like in Alaska, you know, and this was the mountain one. So we was hunting them more like kind of like in the higher elevations, kind of more like the sheep type deal. And but yeah, so we end up the way I killed mine was we end up finding like a natural mineral lick, you know, where these caribou were coming. I guess where all the runoff off the mountain range and stuff comes down and just, you know, washes around on these rocks or whatever. And it does something. I guess it just makes a natural mineral lake where these caribou will flock into these rocks, and they would just walk around these rocks and lick on them. You know, so we actually built like brush blinds, but this was probably about a mile-long stretch of rocks. You know, where they were coming down in different spots. So it wasn't like it was just a football field size spot where you can. So the hardest part was just picking the right spot where they would come in. You know, but we made brush blinds and it was more or less like kind of like an antelope hunt where you just kind of either sit in a blind, you know, is what we did. And so I shot mine out of a blind, and it was pretty exciting, man. I mean, and that's not the easiest animal, you know, because they a lot of times, you know, they don't stop, you know, they constantly, if you watch caribou, they're always moving around and you know, so it's not like a deer just sitting down eating, you know, on some corn or something like that. I mean, it's not the easiest shots with a bow, but yeah, it was. I got my caribou there, and now the caribou trip that you probably envisioning is the one, you know, like in Alaska. I'm going on that next year. I have that book next year.
Awesome.
for caribou. Yep, and this is a drop camp deal.
Yeah.
Where we just gonna get dropped in, and it's gonna be a do-it-yourself deal. So. That's next August. I'm looking forward to that one as well.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, man, caribou are cool. You know, I love them.
What? How far was yours when you shot him?
My caribou was 70 yards on the dot whenever I shot him. Yep. And just I put a good shot on him, and he only went about 30 yards. He was just kind of spinning around in circles, and I mean, he died in just seconds. You know, it worked out good. You know, so. But yeah, I mean, it was further than what I like to shoot. But I mean, you know, it's just like anything. I like to get close. I don't like to shoot animals too far, you know. But sometimes on those western animals like that, it's a little harder, you know, to get pretty open terrain and stuff. Which I'm sure you saw antelope hunting. I mean, it's very open out there. Same thing like where we hunted caribou at. It was fairly open. When they would come to that lick, you know, it was open.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, man, I'm a diehard, like I mentioned, a diehard bow hunter. I'm an archery nerd. I used to work before my career changed. I worked at a archery pro shop. So the archery nerd in me is coming out right now. But I wanted to ask you because I mean, 70 yards obviously is a long shot. So when you prepare for these hunts, being a bow only guy, what's your comfortable range? How is your bow set up, and what are you prepared to do?
Well, I have a 1-pin slider sight. Again, that's pros and cons to everything when it comes to gear. I like that because I used to shoot a 7-pin spot hog, forever, and I liked it, but there was times that I would get kind of jumbled up, just so many pins. You range an animal, if he's 55 yards, I'm trying to count 20, 30, 40, 50, and then trying to gap shoot. And I just got to where it kind of burned me a few times. And again, this one pin's probably going to burn me at times, but I feel more confident in being able to range an animal and dial my sight in to exactly what it is. I've learned too in the past that most shots that I've messed up is because I've rushed, and just tried to hurry up and just send an arrow, you know what I mean? So I'd rather take the time and range and dial my sight in, and just, I feel more confident that way. And if the animal moves and it doesn't present me a shot, then that's part of it, that's part of bow hunting. You're not going to get every shot opportunity. But yeah, my setup is the one pin, and I do practice. I usually shoot about 80 to 90 yards. I practice right now. I was, for the sheep hunt, I very seldom shoot at 20, 30 yards anymore. Just for the fact that, practicing, I like to practice at 80, 90 yards. Now, as far as shooting an animal, 60 yards and in is probably would be my, again, depending on the species too.
Yeah.
Like whitetails, obviously, deer hunting, that's, every animal's got a little, whitetails are spooky, man. I mean, I don't like shooting. I've shot a bunch of whitetails, but I haven't shot many of them probably past 30 yards.
Yeah.
On whitetails. Stuff like the caribou, antelope, things like that. Mule deer, they'll sit there and kind of look at you a little longer. You got more time to shoot longer ranges on them. But yeah, I would say probably 60 is what I feel, the most confident at the longest range,
Yeah.
But again, I do practice long.
Yeah, no, I hear you. You always want to. It's always a good idea to practice farther than you're realistically going to shoot. I know when I went up to Montana, the first year my max range was probably 60, 70, like as far as what I was actually going to be able to do with the bow. And I lucked out and I shot mine at 42. And then the second year, though, I'm thinking the whole time I had a new rig, a new setup, and it was like, man, I got to be ready to reach out there farther if I have to. And I trained that whole summer and everything, and I was dialed. I think the farthest I shot with that bow was 100. And at the same time, I'm thinking, man, I hope I don't have to take a shot on an animal like this. And the whole time we were out there spotting stock, it was like 70 and under is what I'm trying to get. And of course, by day 5, day 6, you're starting to think, man, if I got 1 to 100, am I going to fling it? You start questioning that a little bit. But same way, you can be trained to shoot out that far. But when it comes to whitetail hunting at home, man, here in Texas, I'm gonna keep it probably under 40. I think the longest shot I've ever made on a whitetail is around that 40-yard mark as well. So it's just like you're right. It gets spooky when you start reaching out much farther than that. So.
Yeah. And that's right, man. Like you said too, it's just, it's good to practice those distances, because I mean, you never know too. You not really on whitetails as much, because it down here it's fairly thick and stuff, and a lot of times you don't get a second shot on something. But some of those animals out west, that open country, there's times that I've got second shots on an animal at 100 yards or something, so with an arrow already in it. So I mean, hey, arrows, I could buy more arrows. I ain't afraid to sling an arrow. So I mean, I will shoot again if I got the opportunity. So at least, it's like I said, a second shot's for sure. It's good to practice at that long range.
Yeah, absolutely.
You never know.
For sure. Man, I had a question just kind of pop into my mind. It's taking us back to your taxidermy stuff a little bit. But you're a waterfowl taxidermist and everything. I know very little personally about taxidermy. But I've always heard that the waterfowl, the birds, are the hardest thing with the feathers and all that. Is that true?
Yes, it is. And look, of course, I'm biased towards the waterfowl just because that's what I do. But I know a lot of guys that do birds. I mean, that do everything. And man, birds, they're so fragile that a lot of guys can't get past the fleshing process on a bird to get to the point to where they can really mount it. They tear them all up, on the wire wheel, which takes the fat off the bird. So yeah, birds are extremely tough. And another thing with the birds compared to a lot of other taxidermy is that, a deer, you have a deer form, and it's a semi-sneak or whatever it is, facing to the right. The deer's it already looks like a deer. If you've seen taxidermy deer forms,
Right.
so you slide the skin over it, you already got the basic shape. I mean, other than doing your ears and your, detail work, lips, and, stuff like that, eyes, you pretty much have something that looks like a deer. Whereas a duck, you don't have that form. I mean, you have a form, but you don't have that sculpted form like a deer is. So you have to build it back up yourself more on that aspect of it. You have to create the shape on waterfowl that you don't really have to do on whitetails or something big game where the skin's super tight to the form and shows the actual form. It's all hard, but yeah, birds are extremely tough, but birds are profitable, because it's you don't have as much materials and stuff in them that you do deer. You have to, well, you don't have to, but a lot of times, you send them off to tanneries and get the skin tan. You got a lot more processed on the deer and big game stuff than you have on waterfowl. So it is. I mean, as a business side of it, it's one of the most profitable, parts of taxidermy is the birds. Again, if you can get to the point to where you can do them good and quick and be efficient with them. It's just like anything. The more you do something, the better you get at it. I mean, and that's all it is.
Gotcha. Well, very cool.
But yeah, they're definitely tough.
Absolutely. I've never actually gotten to sit down with somebody such as yourself that specializes in birds and waterfowl and stuff. So I was always curious. So.
Yeah.
Well, man.
Yep. I love it though. I love my job for sure.
Yeah, it always helps to be able to do something that you love, and the old saying that if you enjoy what you do for work, you'll never work a day in your life, and being able to do something like that and hunt at will sounds pretty ideal. So
it is, man. I mean, like I said, I'm completely blessed, and I know it. And I mean, but I do work a lot, and I'm the type of person that if I really want something, I'm going to figure out a way to get it, and I'm not rich. I can't just go book these hunts and go hunt I mean, I got to work for them too, just like any blue collar person out there has to do, and it can be done. It's all about how bad you want something. You got to be willing to sacrifice a lot of stuff too, if it means that much, and it does to me. So I don't fish anymore. I don't turkey hunt. I don't, there's a lot of things I don't do that I still enjoy to do. I enjoy bow hunting, Western type stuff more than anything else. So I know what I have to do to be able to do it, and that's basically how I live my life, So
yeah, that's awesome.
It works.
Well, man, before we completely conclude our conversation, I have a few questions that we generally like to ask all first time guests on our podcast, that I'll hit you with real quick. The first one being, and for all I know, we might have already talked about it in the few stories that you told, but first one being, what is your favorite hunting memory, and tell us a little bit about it.
Oh, man, I got a lot of them, but I would say, I mean, there's some that, of course, hunting with my dad, things like that, and I'm sure when my son gets old enough, that's going to be obviously going to trump everything.
Yeah.
But as of now, just personally, I would say my favorite thing that I've done so far would be the mountain goat.
Yeah.
Would be my favorite story. It's because I wanted it so bad, and I never worked so hard for something, and to succeed and just have it all, like I said, like the story I told, the way it, came about. I mean, it worked in my favor, but I worked hard for it, so it was just real, a lot of satisfaction on that hunt, so I would say, yeah, that one probably ranks as my favorite one at this point in my life.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. It's always interesting. I like asking that question. It's amazing how many people are one stumped a little bit by it, because like you said, there are so many, but then I love hearing how so many of them default back to, well, it was always hunting with my dad growing up, or hunting with my kids, or what else it might be. And man, You know, we talked about it recently on our podcast as early as last week. You know, just the father and son bond of hunting and everything, and how so many people have a father figure like that in their lives that got them into hunting and everything. So, always good to hear that that's a
Yeah, I mean,
highlight of somebody's
my
life.
dad's no exception. Yeah, he's no exception. I mean, he's the one that got me into hunting. I mean, he's got me into taxidermy, you know, all that stuff. I mean, if it wouldn't have been for him, you know, let me follow my dreams, I mean, I wouldn't be able to do what I do now. I mean, he was the one that got me into I wanted to do taxidermy work. He bought me a VHS tape back in the day, and that's how I learned, you know. I mean, he didn't have to do that, you know. He could have just threw it, you know, just go play in the yard or something, you know, but he didn't. You know, and it allowed me to do what I do now. But yeah, so I mean, obviously, yeah, hunting with my dad's always been, you know, some of the best memories I've had.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, man. All right, the next question I have is one, and again, we might have already touched on it because I know you already mentioned some stuff that you have booked coming up here in the next couple seasons. But I always like to ask folks what are some of your top bucket list hunts that you have not gotten to do yet that you're really striving for? And I know you already mentioned a couple of them. So.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the sheep. You know, hopefully that works out. That's a. But as far as in the future, if I complete this Super 10 and you know kill the sheep and I mean I want to do a grizzly bear hunt, either a grizzly or a brown bear. It's probably going to be the next one that I'm going to book, assuming that I kill the sheep. That'll probably be the next big hunt. I mean everything, you know. I like them all, you know. I mean anything that I can hunt with the bow, but yeah, I would say the grizzly or the brown bear, you know, would be my next bucket list type hunt. Mule deer is my favorite thing to hunt. If I can hunt them yearly, that would probably be my overall favorite animal. I just love them, especially in the velvet. I don't know. I love the country they live in. I love everything about them, you know. So I would say that, yeah, that's. You know, and I might scale down when my kid gets a little older, and I might start doing more just you know, mule deer, you know, stuff like that, you know, which is just fine with me as well. So yeah, who knows? I mean, I change by the minute, man. I mean, I don't know. I got different goals, different days sometimes, but yeah.
Well, that's awesome, man. Well, man, before I conclude the recording part here, is there anything else that you'd like to share with me or our listeners or anything while we got you on here?
I guess, man, all I could say is that if you really want something, just you know, work hard and do it. Don't wait till next year, because if you miss this September, you're not getting this September back. You know, you can't get it back. That's why I don't know. I feel strongly about that. That there's a lot of, man. I mean, memories are more to me. Memories are way more important than material things.
Yeah.
You know, so. I mean, if it means giving up that, you know, big truck or this and that, if you really want to do hunts, then you just might have to make that sacrifice. You know, It just depends on how bad you want it. You know, So, but it ain't for everybody. Not everybody's willing to give that stuff up. So it just if you want it bad enough, go get it. I guess that's all I can say on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more, man. Well, man, I appreciate you coming on the podcast for us with us for an episode. Enjoyed taking a few minutes to talk hunting with you and kind of diving into some of your adventures. It's been fun.
Yeah, same here, man. I appreciate you giving me a call.
Yeah. Are you on social media or anything like that with your taxidermy or anything where folks could go follow you?
Yeah, I have Facebook. It's just under my name. I don't. It's just under Lee Duet, LEEDUET. I don't have any like business page or nothing. I post pictures of my work just on my personal page. But yeah, that's all I have. Just Facebook.
I got you. All right, guys. Well, for our listeners, if you guys haven't already, be sure that you follow and subscribe to Fall Obsession Podcast on whatever podcast platform you're listening on. We're on all major podcast platforms, as well as Waypoint TV and our YouTube channel. We post a lot on that YouTube channel, some of our videos and podcasts and stuff, so be sure you subscribe there. On that note, normally we do a podcast video. We had some technical difficulties with Lee, unfortunately, here, so there's no video for this podcast, but we hope you guys enjoy the audio nonetheless. FallObsession.com is our website. We are a hunting and outdoor media production company, and that's where you guys can go to find all of our content covering hundreds of different topics in the hunting industry on that website. You can also shop our apparel. We got some frequent sales and some pretty inexpensive t-shirts on there, as well as our $10 deal of the week, so be sure you guys head on over there and check out what we got going on. Like I mentioned earlier, we are on Waypoint TV, which is a free hunting and outdoor streaming app, so be sure you download that. Check out Fall Obsession Podcast and some of the other shows and podcasts that are on there. Social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all those, and Go Wild app, which is a censorship-free app for hunters and outdoorsmen. We're on there as well. And finally, Ridge Rock Hunt Company is our podcast partner and sponsor. Derek and Lacey have taken good care of us and help us spread the good word about Fall Obsession. And they could help hook you up with your next hunting experience, so give Derek a call. Lee's a good contact and of Derek's and everything, and I know he's gone on some hunts and stuff that Derek set him up on as well. So be sure that you check out Derek and Lacey, Ridge Rock, and see if Derek can help you get set up on your next hunting adventure. So, Lee, thanks again, man. I appreciate you coming on.
Yep, thank you, man. Had a blast.
Us too. I'm sure that, like I said, we'll have you back on after you get that next big hunt knocked out. So.
Sounds great, man.
All right, man. Thanks, guys, for listening to another Fall Obsession podcast. We're back again next Monday morning, and we'll catch you then.